here just from across, or just right next door to him. And I specialize in thermography and women's breast health. So Dr. Vaughn asked me to come and speak to you about what I do. So that makes it pretty easy. And I'll grab this real quick. I kind of work with a theme. The name of my business is Breast Research Awareness and Support, so the acronym is BRAS. And so this is my little logo. And I speak a lot on telling women about the bare facts and learn to bust the myths and adjust your straps, because there are things that we can do for breast cancer. And the story behind it is that both my mother and my sister developed breast cancer about 6 months apart. And so when that happened, I was a nutritionist, and I thought I knew a little bit about it, but obviously you are scared and you're looking for things that you can do to protect yourself and your loved ones. And I started doing a lot of internet research and getting on the internet and learning actually more and more. And I really surprised myself what there was out there that is not really well known. So my clients, my nutrition clients, kept telling me that I needed to share it with others. So I turned it into an 18-chapter book.
Wow.
And started looking for publication, possibilities. And because I was a former teacher, I also turned it into 600 PowerPoints. So you're going to see a few of those PowerPoints tonight. I have about 10 hours of education series just on breast health.
Wow.
And you'll see just about an hour tonight. And then while I was doing that and making presentations around, almost every place I would go to, and I think my favorite example is El Dorado, Kansas. You know where that is?
Mm-hmm.
There were 10 ladies in a little church, and after my presentation, 3 of them came up and asked how they could be involved in my business.
Wow.
And I didn't really have a business, so I turned it into a business, and I started calling franchise lawyers, and I'm now franchising across the U.S.
Oh,
so
wow.
we have some good possibilities going on. So I have a couple franchises right now, and then I have a really big sale. I'm just waiting to see if the money comes in next week, so we'll see about that. But anyway, this is kind of what I work with and specialize in. So I'm a naturopath just like Vaughn, but a few years behind him. I've just kind of been working without that title. And then I'm a clinical thermographer, and you'll learn more about that later. These are some things that shocked me once I started really researching and trying to learn some things to do to protect myself, and I really think this is the worst. We have been working with the National Breast Cancer Awareness Foundation for years. We're all aware of that particular foundation. Come on in. I just spit out 2 words, so here's that. I just tell the ladies I work with breast health. So the name of my business is BRAS, Breast Research Awareness and Support. And I developed the business because both my mother and my sister were diagnosed with breast cancer 6 months apart. And then these are some things, I just started this first slide. These are some things that I found that were very disturbing to me. So this is, to me, is one of the worst ones, because we work with National Breast Cancer Awareness Month every October. But most of us do not realize that this month has been funded by a chemical company since its inception.
Of course it was.
And so there are charges of reckless misinformation on breast cancer for 25 years, basically.
Sure. Wow.
And our watchdog for this is Dr. Epstein, and he works with the National the Cancer Prevention Coalition. And he says that this whole campaign for 25 years has prevented us from learning about preventable, avoidable causes of breast cancer.
Wow.
So this sponsorship by the chemical company, pays for every leaflet and brochure and everything that we have learned about breast cancer really for 25 years. It is the 25th anniversary this October for National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And of course, it's a pink ribbon fund, the scenario. And I have pink. I wear pink. Vaughn always asks me, do you always wear pink? No, not really, but anyway. So the reason it's upsetting to me is because Zeneca, or Imperial Chemical Industries, produces acetylchlor and phenyl chloride, which are known to cause breast cancer. And they also manufacture tamoxifen, which is one of the most popular breast cancer drugs in the world. So they cause our breast cancer, they give us information behind the scenes, and then they produce tamoxifen.
Wow.
So somehow tamoxifen is one of those miracle drugs for breast cancer. It can supposedly prevent breast cancer, but according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, it causes liver, ovarian, and cervical cancer. Now, how is that quite possible in our bodies, So if you know anybody that is having to make that tough decision, about taking the drug, make sure that you help them look it up on the internet or point some ideas out to them, because it's available if we just search. The internet is wonderful for information about drugs.
I have a question too.
Mhm.
What do you know what the acetylchlor, is that how that's said?
Yes,
And
it's in a lot of our
vinyl
plastics.
Okay.
It's all over and everything.
chloride? Okay,
Everything.
the vinyl chloride, same
Mhm.
thing?
Same.
The plastics?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we've also been told, these are other facts that really bothered me. We've been told since '95 that breast cancer is not a preventable disease, you know. And then the American Cancer Society told us in '97 that there are no practical ways to prevent cancer, just early detection. And so what do they tell us is our early detection?
Mammograms.
Oh, mammograms. So we'll find out more information about that in a little bit. But this statistic is worrisome. More American women have died of breast cancer than all our soldiers in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, the Korean War.
Wow.
So I kind of have the idea that we need to go to war ourselves. It should be an individual battle that we're not fighting right now. We're just letting the chemical companies do it for us, quote unquote, to the extent that they're doing it. So my whole goal is to educate women, and that's what stands for Breast Research Awareness and Support. So I'm trying to get out there and let you know there are other things that we could be doing besides waiting for something to happen. This is other information that I think has been given to us. We've been told it's our fault, don't you think? They point the finger at us and they say, it's your genes, you don't exercise right, and ta-da. So of course this takes the focus away from everything that's in the water and the chemicals that are everywhere in our offices, our consumer products in other places. So millions have been spent to educate us, but nothing really teaches us about prevention. It's a strange kind of education.
Yeah.
It's all about the pink ribbon, don't you think? Pink ribbon, pink ribbon, pink ribbon. So what I found is that heredity accounts for only 1 out of 20 cases of breast cancer. One. Now where does all our money go to from the pink ribbon? It always goes to genetic research and to find the cure for the genetic problems.
Oh.
So what's causing the other 19 cases? Isn't that, aren't we kind of being sidetracked? If we don't know what's causing it, how are we ever going to protect ourselves? What was that?
Say probably pesticides.
Yeah.
Pollutants.
There you go.
That's all the stuff.
So here's the list I put together, and I do have this list for you at the end of the program. But here's some possibilities. Now, there are 73 chemicals in our consumer products, in our makeup, and our food, and all of that are known to cause breast cancer. And this comes from the Susan G. Komen Foundation. Some of our money that we, did the runs for and raised was spent to hire an outside research agency who went through all the past double-blind studies and pulled out everything that they knew that caused breast cancer. Have any of you seen that information? I have been giving workshops for 2 years, and one lady has been on Susan G. Komen website and has seen the list that's posted there. So they're not educating us. I mean, what are they doing with it? Nobody is still learning the information. Don't you think we should have that list in our minds, and we should be knowing, what they know causes breast cancer?
And when you're going for your mammograms, they should give that to you and say,
Like,
kudos
yeah.
to you, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
Take this with you.
Yes.
That'd be great.
So we're kind of, it's to the point where we need to really step up and take care of ourselves a little bit better. I also found that there are 3 viruses connected with breast cancer. One virus is found in 33% of the breast cancer cases. Now, wouldn't that be important to know?
Yeah.
So this is an unusual virus, and I cannot exactly pronounce the name of it. It's a mammary mouse virus, and it had mutated thousands of years ago, and it's only on a couple of continents. So it is on the Asian or it is not on the Asian continent, but it's on the American continents and in Europe and in Australia. And we all have higher cancer rate in the Asian continent. But there are several reasons possibly. But this mouse virus, mammary mouse virus, may mutate or change, spread just like a common cold.
Wow.
So the other viruses are the cytomegalovirus, a pretty common virus, and the third one is the Epstein-Barr virus. So that is associated with mononucleosis. So 3 very, viruses that we need to know about. Now we also have EMFs, which would be electromagnetic frequencies that are connected. So we're talking about our cell phones, our computers, everything that we have to have in modern society is now connected or can be connected. And the research was done right here in Kansas City, Midwest Research Institute. And Charles Graham will tell us that he thinks that the EMFs are messing up our estrogen and testosterone levels.
Yeah,
Need I say more? You know, isn't that just strange? So one big example of that was in Australia. They had 16 women who worked together in the same office develop breast cancer.
Oh, goodness.
And they happened to be in a skyscraper, you know, top floor, and the floor right above them was television and radio broadcasting equipment. So they think that that was a possible connection. The other culprit could be that mammary mouse virus. They think that could have. Now, guess what? There's a connection between the two. They know that EMFs basically feed many kinds of pathogens, so our viruses and our parasites and things today are being fed or will multiply more rapidly because of the EMFs. So, yes.
And can I just want to interject, because you guys have heard me talk a lot about the earthing pads. That's a way to instantly neutralize that negative energy. Instantly. They've
Were
actually
you saying birthing pad?
earthing.
Earthing?
Grounding, earthing, connecting to the earth through a pad.
Oh.
Right, and David Wolf, I actually just watched a video that he did recently, and he actually measured the amount of electrical activity through a band he was wearing, and it showed the electrical activity on the computer, because he had like the iPad was the worst, you know, of all the different devices.
Wow.
And when he touched the earthing pad, gone. The frequencies were gone. I mean, he touched it with his big toe. Boom, gone.
Wow.
Just immediately neutralizes it when you're
Is there more
grounded.
than one brand? I have the Barefoot, I think.
It's Barefoot. That's
Yeah,
the one I
that's
have
what
too.
I have too.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention
Very
that.
interesting. But what they did was take a lot of pathogens and put them in an area that was protected with a Faraday cage, is what they call it, some kind of a little metallic type cage. And the pathogens would just proliferate normally when they were protected. And then when they opened that Faraday cage up to everything that we're bombarded with every day, all those different types of bugs or pathogens, parasites, viruses, and whatnot, proliferated at 800 times more than normal. So there is a connection somehow between the two ideas. We also have antibiotics that increase our risk by 20%. I bet there's no one here that can say they haven't had an antibiotic or bunches of antibiotics. So they now know that that's a problem for us also. And according to Susan G. Komen, there are 47 drugs that cause breast cancer.
Jeez.
Don't you think we should have a list of those drugs right in front of us? You know, so that's on their website. Now, as I did a little bit more research, I found that there's one drug that increases our breast cancer risk by 1,500%, and that is Pravachol. That is a drug for lowering our cholesterol. And as they do the figures, they always like to manipulate them and make it look like it really helps the cholesterol levels, but in reality, it lowers our cholesterol maybe 1%. Increases breast cancer rates by 1,500%.
Yikes.
All right, and then on another website, I found a list of 90 drugs in combination with hormone, drugs, HRTs, that can also be connected with breast cancer. So anytime you combine hormones and other drugs, there's also a risk. But these are 47 drugs by themselves that are known to cause breast cancer. Double-blind studies have been done on this. We also have 18 dyes and 10 pesticides. So, our color in a bottle may not be the best thing, but we all have little things that we do for vanity, don't we? So we have to kind of keep those things cleaned out a little bit. And I'll be talking about the pesticides more in just a minute. We also have the parasites, the fungi, molds, and mycotoxins. We have a whole host of things that are involved with breast cancer. Now, one that most women do not know is that dental problems can cause breast cancer. I was at a chiropractic office speaking, and I spoke that evening. The whole program was on dental health, and I knew that his wife had died of breast cancer, and so that's why he was having me there, and I go to his office regularly for thermography. But he came up afterwards, and he said, really, my wife died of dental cancer. He said during her chemotherapy, she had no trouble with her teeth whatsoever. We just went and, had her teeth cleaned, and pus shot to the ceiling during the middle of the cleaning. He said she was so infected, didn't even know it, didn't have any problems. And so there are 8 teeth that are connected with our breasts, 2 up and 2 down on both sides. I have the complete list of those for you. And they are connected. They are connected with meridians or electrical conductivity, but also they think they just, the bacteria just travels back and forth. Most of us do know that we can have a heart attack, or heart problems sometimes when people get their teeth cleaned, and so if you have a mitral valve prolapse, the dentist is supposed to give you, antibiotics for that. But why aren't they telling us at the same time? Oh, duh, there are 8 teeth that can be connected to breast problems and breast cancer. So a lot of really nice, easy to digest material is available, but we are not learning it, we're not being taught that. So in one case, there were 57 out of 60 cases connected with breast cancer and dental problems. Isn't that a little bit too much to refute?
Yeah.
And in Europe, if you go, or if you have problems with any kind of cancer, your dental work is the first thing. Most of them, of the cancer clinics have dental, or holistic dentists right in the offices, and they have your root canals are cleaned out before they will even start cancer treatments for you.
Mm-hmm.
So time and time again, you can pick up that information about dental health. We also have 17 hormones that increase our risk, sometimes 20 to 30%, and that's mostly a problem with our younger generation. Now, women my age have been exposed to HRTs, and a lot of women, even older generations, have taken those for 20 years, 25 years. And back in 2002, they finally admitted that the HRTs, the hormone replacement therapy, was causing breast cancer.
Really? But they still use it.
Right. Yeah. I've had women come in who are still on Premarin. Does anybody know what Premarin is?
Yeah. Horse urine.
Pregnant mare's urine. It's pre, they tell us kind of sneakily, but it's not common knowledge. So that is some of the things that they have given women in the past.
And they're horrible to the horses.
Oh, yeah.
To get their urine.
Exactly. It's just very strange. But at the same time that they had the press release that told us that HRTs were causing our breast cancer, they forgot to mention that the birth control pills, the same thing, only 20 to 30, 40% more hormones in them. So all our younger generation is really at risk for breast cancer problems, and they're not telling us. Xenohormones in our plastics and pesticides are increasing our risk, sometimes 100,000 to 500,000 times.
Wow.
Now, what's a xenohormone? Anybody?
Plastic, pesticides, something disrupts your hormones.
Fake. Xeno is the word for fake. Is it Greek? I think, it's from a foreign language. I'm not going to say it's Greek. But so that xeno means fake hormone. And so there are hormones of all kinds that we're so sensitive to. The best example I can give you about our hormones is if you can think of all the blood in your body being 20 freight train carloads. And if you have one drop of a certain kind of hormone in there, that's the correct balance. But if you put 2 drops in the second drop comes from a fake hormone, it's messed up your body completely. And that's what they're always lying to us about, saying, oh, it's a small amount, it's such a small amount, it's not going to hurt anything. We are talking about amazingly minute amounts of hormones that control the body. So anything from a foreign source is very dangerous. They have tested the plastics in the soup on the shelf, the plastic bowls that you can take. You peel off the plastic, a little bit of water, and nuke it. Nuke it is a key word there. And put plastic over it. That whole combination is the one that they say is 500,000 times more hormones in there than necessary to grow breast cancer. And so plastics of all kinds are the most dangerous things. And of course they're telling us that some plastics are safe. And do not believe that. And Vaughn, I need to fix your plastic container over there. Even the safe plastic, they have grown breast cancer in test tubes
Really?
made out of
The BP, whatever free?
Not safe. Is that the BPA free?
The
Yeah.
bottle?
Yeah.
It's not.
Okay. What would that be?
The number?
Yeah.
Probably a 7.
A 7. But it's supposed to be safe plastic, right?
No.
Well, no, a 7's a blend. It's a mix of
okay.
different plastics.
So, a lot of times you'll be in offices, and this is the plastic that we use, So there are some ways to try to neutralize that just a little bit and to work with that. But they have grown, in laboratory setting, the test tubes are made out of quote-unquote safe plastic, and they would still grow amazingly. I think that it was 200 times more than normal in a safe plastic. So any plastics are you need to be very careful. Have you heard about Cheryl Crow? Her breast cancer could have been from the plastic bottles that she drank all the time her whole career. So plastic is very, very problematic. Yes, I can do that. You could have just yelled at me a minute ago.
Okay.
I started getting softer because it was a small room. So, and that comes from Theo Colburn, Our Stolen Future. She wrote a lot of statistics, has lots of information about different hormones. Yes.
I just watched a movie, if anyone's interested, it's called Tapped. It kind of exposes the whole bottled water industry, but one of the scientists on there, he talked about BPA, bisphenol A, which is one of the common ones found in the plastic. You know, that's why we look for BPA free. And the research he did was so frightening that Dow Chemical, one of the big chemical companies, asked him if it would be okay if he waited to release his results after we came to a mutually beneficial agreement with the rest of the chemical companies, and of course that made him very upset. He released the information. But one of the things they found that was really frightening was the Seine River that runs through Paris, France. 95% of the fish in there are female because it's changing the hormones of the animals.
And there's another area in England where the fish are intersex. They're trapped
Yes.
between male and female, and that's from the plastics.
All from
Wow.
the plastics.
Awful.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're doing to our society amazing.
Wow.
And you know, some more information on that. The plastics is that, of course, they have there are at least 100 studies proving that the plastic is very dangerous. But they took the FDA took the word of 2 projects or research projects done by the chemical companies to say that it was safe. You know, they turned down 100 studies showing it's not safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to just be aware of that and try to remove some of those things from our environment. We also have common health and diet foods that obviously increase our breast cancer risk. And there are thousands of books written on this. I could talk all night long on this, and I just want to touch on a couple of ideas. But the worst ones would be aspartame that I would be concerned about, and soy. And I bet Dr. Vaughn has you all educated on that already. But just to touch lightly on it, I do have a picture later about with a thermogram and the dangers of aspartame. But aspartame is about 5,000 times more dangerous than a drink of alcohol. It is harder on our liver. Our liver cannot detoxify it. It's stored in our body. It causes lots of inflammation. So it's very, very, very dangerous. And time again, we are unaware that's in 9,000 food products and doesn't have to be labeled, So it is in our food source very, very heavily. If you're eating anything packaged, you just have to be doing the raw foods and things like that to be able to avoid it completely. And then soy, have you had a class on soy?
Yeah, I did a class on soy,
Okay.
dairy,
I'm sure
corn, and
everybody's
wheat, and
been
yeah.
there. But soy, my dad's a farmer, and it's so sad how all the farmers are controlled by Monsanto. If they step outside of that little box, Monsanto can squish them, and does that regularly, keeps them all under control. And so soy, there are a lot of soy products out there, but 95% of them are GMO. That means they are genetically modified. And so right here in Kansas, we actually have wheat. That's the main example that has genes from humans in it. They're messing with them to try to raise something that people would not be as allergic to, And soy is the one that has been messed with the most. So most of the soy that you're getting is genetically modified. Even if it says organic, you just cannot even get soy that is not genetically modified really at this point in time. So, and then we're the only country that raises or that eats soy as a grain. Not everyone else. All the other countries have known for thousands of years, basically, that soy is toxic. I mean, we think the Japanese eat soy. We've been told that, but really, do they have tofu? Soy burgers. They don't have the land mass to even raise enough soy to do that. And what they discovered generations ago was that you had to ferment the soy and drain the toxins off, and ferment and drain it off. And so they only eat it as a condiment. The only thing you should eat is soy sauce or something that's been fermented. Those are the only products that say so. Soy milk is dangerous as it can be. And we have lots of younger girls who are growing up eating soy products, and they are genetically not genetically, they are physically damaged. Their internal organs are not developing correctly, and a lot of them are infertile. And then our young men are very feminized with the soy products. So it's just an endless list of problems. It's the most allergenic food there is. Goes on and on and on. Anything to add to that?
No,
It's just frightening, So another comment, and I have whole hour workshops on all these little ideas that we're talking about. So this is just a little introduction. But we've also been told that sunlight's our enemy. We're supposed to stay inside, and slather ourselves when we go out and, have everything covered up. And of course, that's just the opposite of what's true. Somebody made a killing on us and killed us with our sunscreens. They're very highly problematic to causing all kinds of cancer. Of course, anything we put on our skin is absorbed everywhere. So it's a huge, huge problem. They do know that if that 50,000 women would live every year who now die if they had 10,000 IUs of vitamin D every day. The ones who have breast cancer, if they would up that vitamin D level, they would actually be alive. So one of the best things you could do for anybody that you know that has breast cancer or any kind of cancer is send them bottles after bottles of the correct vitamin D, D3. That's the natural.
And it is so cheap, man.
Yeah, it's like, it's, you know, and they tell us to get outside, but you have to have 40% of your body uncovered, and you would not be able to wash for, 48 hours is really what Mercola is saying. So a lot of us will go out and suntan and think we've done something really good, then we go and take a hot shower and wash it all off. And our body has not had enough time to absorb that correctly and let our skin
You
go
can
ahead.
wash off the vitamin D?
Well, it hasn't absorbed deep enough for your body
Huh.
to be able to take
Okay.
control of it. Yeah, so we negate what we get out in the sun
Yeah,
for, because,
that's
you know, we
right.
get hot and sweating, so we can
Right.
wash it off. So you only need to, you know, wash your little body parts
Right.
if you're doing that and trying to use that sun for a good purpose. So lots of information on vitamin D. We also have another huge problem with iodine. Iodine is a huge preventive factor in our breast health. If you have fibrocystic breasts, or even if you have breast cancer, there's a huge connection with that. And my research shows that they have known for over 100 years that problems with your thyroid, which would be connected to an iodine shortage, is connected with breast cancer. Aren't they kind of slow teaching us some things, you know? That was a startling figure. They've known for 100 years that lack of iodine, thyroid problems, and breast cancer are all connected.
Wow.
So one of my favorite little products when women come in is iodine, and Vaughn's got lots of kinds of iodine. I use a Lugol's iodine for women. If they have a breast lump, I actually have them put a couple of drops of the Lugol's iodine right on that lump, and a lot of times it will fade it away. It just, you know, goes away on its own. And that is because when we get low iodine, which we are, we live in the middle of the U.S., you know, and we don't have a lot of iodine sources. The thyroid is a bully. There's no other way to say it. So it kind of slurps up all the iodine, and it doesn't share it. So you can take a lot of pills internally for iodine. You can take all the kelp and all the, you know, other things that you want. But if the thyroid is low, it's not going to let any come down to your breasts, and breast cancer will develop. And I found that out the hard way because my sister had problems with her thyroid, and 2 years later she had breast cancer. And there's a statistic on that. They're interrelated, you know. So easy to do, easy fix is to put some iodine on your breast once in a while, let that soak in. Our emotional health also makes us very susceptible to cancer. Would everyone agree with that? Why do you think it's so much harder or more important on my breast health or more connected? Any ideas on that? You know, basically, we're nurturing women. We have a lot of symbolism with our breasts and, you know, mothering, nurturing. And so we store our tensions in our breasts. We store a lot of our emotions, you know, and our emotions can become toxic, you know. So we put all of those emotions right here in this area. And it's very, very symptomatic emotional problems in breast cancer. I bet you had something to add to that. No? Okay.
That's good.
All right. So, little tidbit on that. When you come to work with me next door for breast health, I work with emotions a lot and can give you a lot of different ideas on that. So, and Dr. Vaughn even has a system called the Biomeridian, and I have one just like it. He's the master over there.
Whatever, she trained me.
He can test you for your emotions and then work with Bach emotional remedies or different ideas. And the system is life-changing. I had a lady come recently, and the Biomeridian system that I'm talking about can just help you pinpoint emotions that you might want to work with. And I worked with a lady who was having breast problems, and you just pull up the word justified. You know, didn't mean anything to me, but it sure meant a lot to her. And she called back later and she said, I have changed my whole life around because of that one word. Very, very interesting. Really hit home to her. So lots of things that we can help you, coach you through and make you, you know, help you to think, you know, about that. So that's a list of a few of the connections that we ought to be knowing about our breast health that are causing breast problems. That's a little bit different than waiting for a pill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think a pill, or should we wait for a pill? Is that the most ridiculous thing? Knowing all of this now, can a pill protect us from anything? So be careful on that. Now, I like to use this idea. I think we should call prevention the new cure, you know, and I borrowed this from Breast Health and Wellness. Don't you think we ought to be running for the cause, not just the cure? Doesn't that make a lot more sense?
Mhm.
Because if, you know, Race for the Cure is a marathon with no end in sight. So, then, that was all the bad news, you know, negative things that I was kind of telling you about breast health. But according to Dr. Christine Horner, if we do just one idea, our breast cancer risk can be decreased about 30 to 40%. But when we do several things, we can decrease our risk astronomically. Now, how hard would that be to get all this information out to women? Isn't that amazing that we could do
Like
something?
what you said, we go get our mammograms. Just hand us.
You know, so we can learn the true causes of breast cancer, you know. And my mom and sister are both breast cancer survivors, and that's a picture of them, and they just hate this
Right.
picture, I'm sure. And so, anyway, here's why we can really make a difference. There's a lot of things that we can do. Every person battles cancer every day. You know, you see this all over. Do you agree with this? 250,000 cancer cells are in your body, or
Yeah.
something like that. You
To a certain
a little
extent,
bit
yeah.
different figures, you know. But our body is able to handle that every day. We have a great immune system. It was made for that, and it really fights and cleans out things. You know, we have an immune system that works 24 hours a day unless we abuse it. So that was a big phrase. Have we abused our immune system? Sure we have. We just breathe. You know, we get up in the morning and we breathe, you know, bad air. So our immune systems are really under stress today. So our body really has to work harder. And here's how cancer cells can grow. They double about every 90 days. Some cancer cells are a little bit, you know, faster, some are a little bit slower, but the average would be about 90 days. So, you know, our body can handle that because it fights 250,000 cells a day. Okay, remember that figure? That was every day. Okay, so at 2 years, you know, we might have 256 cancer cells from something going on in our body, and our body might not have noticed it. But if we do something, if we change something, if we do a raw food diet, if we, you know, any of those ideas that I mentioned before, our body can, quote unquote, wake up, you know, kick the immune system in and fight that. So even at 4 years, if we have 65,000 cells, that body, you know, our body can take care of those. And at 5 years, we might have 1 million cells. We can still fight that, can't we? Because our body fights 250,000 every day. But then when you get into the 6, 7, and 8 years, do you see how many cancer cells that our body would be struggling to take care of? And this is from the Radiological Clinic of North America. So after 8 years, we have billions of cells.
Now, can I ask a question? Is that specific to breast health and breast cancer? That's in general.
In general.
Okay, because they say breast cancer, you know, is a much slower growing
Right.
cancer because it's lymphatic, it's not connected to a blood supply like a liver cancer or stomach cancer. Something else would be much faster growing.
Some are and some are not. There are different kinds of breast cancers.
Right.
Okay. So in general. Well, now look at this, gals. Breast cancer has 4 to 10 billion cells before a mammogram can detect it.
Wow.
How early is our mammogram for detection?
Yeah.
That means we've been told for the last 25 years or however long that campaign for mammograms has been going on that mammograms are early detection. Is that right?
No.
No way.
Wow.
So, and this comes from the Journal of Surgical Oncology. They know that. They know it's not early detection. You can find it in their medical journals, you know. So a mammogram's not early, and a cancer growth can have spread to other parts of your body, you know. So every day really is a new day. It's a new fight. Our immune system needs to be taken care of. And so, you know, what do you do in the next 10 years? Are you helping or are you hindering? And I think you're all in the helping category because you're here and you're learning all these great things. So we don't want to be our own worst enemy. We want to really be able to help that. So this is the advice that we have been taught so far, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I think we've been told to eat right, to exercise, watch our weight, drink plenty of water. Isn't that just kind of a general health statement? You know, is that enough? No. I mean, gosh, look at the holes it leaves. We've also been told to do self-exams, mammograms, and take tamoxifen. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Some of you may not know about the tamoxifen, but we've been told the other two. And then we've been told to think about prophylactic mastectomies. Anybody know what that is? Okay, that's what I was told. My mom and sis came up with problems. Well, you might think about
Just removing your breast.
taking those off.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I looked that up, there were 250,000 websites that had hits and information about mastectomies, prophylactic mastectomies. And increasingly it's getting more popular. Why?
It's an easy way to fix it.
Yeah.
Yes. and we've had movie stars. What's her name? Christina Applegate.
Mm,
You know, that, that kind of stuff. So that fear factor is, well, hey. And her exact quote was, "I hear they make really pretty boobies." Did anyone see that?
did.
She actually said, you know, that's the quote. She may have a little bit more money than other people, you know. It's very hard. But we do have to respect everybody's decision, even though I was kind of, you know, making a little bit of a joke about that. But we do have to respect that, you know, everybody's made a really, really rough decision to do that, you know. And so there are lots of in and outs, and everybody's made their own decision about what to do and how to protect themselves. My personal decision was to teach. I talk about it every day, you know. And so that's something that I can give back, because we can do something about that. And I also learned that there's another whole study on genetics, and it's from Bruce Lipton, and his book is called Epigenetics. Epi means above. So he's been telling us for 20 years that there's something that controls our genetics. And you know what that is? It's our brain. So now there have been thousands of studies done on epigenetics and funded by the National Health Sciences and all the, you know, government agencies. And they do now say that you can control your genetics. So a lot of that was with guided imagery and things like that. So I chose to think, I will will myself, you know, I will work with it, I will tell myself, I will be healthy, and lots of things like that. So interesting ideas on that. We can also do self-examinations. When you feel a lump, remember it contains millions of cells. And I have not really liked the self-examination theory a lot until just recently. And that's because Olivia Newton-John jumped into the breast health care. Has anybody seen her product for breast health? It is called the Live Aid. And I'm going to pass it around for you. It comes in a package like this. And basically, maybe I did this wrong, but it's on a clipboard, it's a heart. I think I'll just take this off. But basically, you can examine yourself with it, and you can actually put it here, you know, and move it around. And what it will do will magnify lumps. So if there's something like, you might have a small lump, the size of a grain of sand, it will magnify it to a grain of rice, or, you know, a little bit larger. So I'm going to pass around this clipboard, and there's a couple grains of salt on here, and you can just play with it and feel the difference. It's a wonderful tool. They have something similar to this in Europe. It's called the Donia glove or Donna glove, something similar to that. And basically, they have tested it and compared it against mammograms, and it does a better job than mammograms.
Really? Wow.
So this should be something that you should buy and give everybody as a stocking stuffer or a present or whatever you want to consider that for $15, you know. And then I also want to encourage you to jump into this. When I showed this to a man, he just started laughing. He goes, "That's old technology." And I'm going, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you know, if you paint a car, if you pay a lot of money for a really expensive paint job, that painter is going to put his hand up inside a glove. It's got some fluid in it, and they rub it over the paint job to make sure there are no imperfections." So that has been around for years.
Wow.
So I was going, "Why didn't you tell me? That could have been my, you know, my." So we can all get busy, you know, and maybe think outside the box and come up with some of our own products. What are some other things that we can do to protect ourselves? We're just really waiting on those chemical companies, and that's not what we should be doing, you know. So that's a great little product and idea and stuff. So, and that's part of what my franchise has. I have a couple little inventions that are kind of going through the loop, so we'll see. I've got a couple ideas coming out for breast health. But it's important for us to think outside the box and protect ourselves. So I love that little product, and again, it's available at Curves, or you can go online, Olivia Newton-John. It's really hard to get. And here I didn't even tell you, I have them next door. I'm not a promoter very good. They are next door. So, anyway, a little bit of information about mammograms. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
I can't see that far, which is it said, yeah, I had a mammogram lady.
Stick
Why did you ask?
Yeah.
Very, very true, isn't
How
that?
you feel?
Had to have a little bit of fun there since I'm not a joke teller. But I should. Actually, I found a study that they have actually proven, there was some money, some funding to go to prove that staring at breasts will improve your heart rate.
What? Staring at breasts?
There was a study funded on that. I've got it written down. And
And what guy did that?
yeah.
Hey.
Gave them money, you know, to prove that it would increase your cardiac output. Duh, you know. That is an actual validated study now. So we can say that anytime we want. So here's a little bit more information about radiation and mammograms. Basically, we have known forever that radiation causes cancers. Some of you may have heard your grandmothers or older people talk about an object in a shoe store in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And you could go into the shoe store and you put your foot in the kind of a center of a black box, wasn't it? And it would shine through and it would look like a skeleton. It was an x-ray. You know, they had it in stores for years and they finally took it out. Why? It was causing cancer.
Yeah.
They took it out knowing that it was causing cancer, proven. And then maybe 10 years later, it's like, oh, it's safe on our breast. We'll use, you know, we'll use X-rays to do this. We can't use them for our feet anymore, but we can use X-rays here. You know, so our whole concept and our whole theory about it is very, very invalid. So they've known for years. Again, another project. X-rays are a proven cause of human cancer. And do we have any doubts after the Japan problem? You know, gosh, we hear radiation, radiation, radiation. In Europe, they do have a statistic that the mammograms may be causing 22% of the breast cancer. They had 4 Norwegian countries that did not have a mammogram program. They instigated it. Just had the women to do mammograms every 2 years. What are we supposed to be doing? Every year, you know. And their statistics came up, and basically were saying, hey, 22% of them could be caused by the breast cancer, or by the breast cancer can be caused by the mammograms. And then Dr. Christine Horner, I showed her picture earlier, says that we have so many false negatives, false positives, falses, I guess is the way to say it, from the mammograms, that they are doing 800,000 surgeries a year needlessly, biopsies. What's a biopsy cost? Someone just had one done when they came to see me. It cost them $12,000. So is that an industry into itself?
Yeah.
Multiply that out. No wonder that's going on. And ladies, you should see some of the ladies that I work with. You know, they've had some surgeries that were very unnecessary. So we really need to be careful before we let them do things. We Americans are considered barbaric. The Europeans, you know. They would not. They don't do the same type of mastectomies and everything that we do. So we are considered very barbaric. Have you ever thought about if you actually had a cancer growth when you did a mammogram? Would that be safe?
Wouldn't think so.
No, just like a pimple. You pop a pimple, what happens to it? You know.
Yeah.
So when you have that mammogram, you're having 50 pounds of pressure put on that area, and so they do have statistics that tells us that yes, the smashing does cause spreading and more problems with that. And that statistic came from the British Medical Journal, not the Lancet. So we also know that now this one comes from Dr. McCullough, and I see I did not have his name there, but he says that mammograms expose us to 1,000 times more radiation than a chest x-ray. And that's because we're very, you know, sideways, we're very thin out this way with the plate, and that's completely different than your whole chest cavity being exposed to an x-ray. So when they, you know, put it through in such a thin area, it's very, very dangerous for us. Needle biopsies also spread cancer 50% more than a lumpectomy. So if you know anybody that's having to make a decision, some of this information is really good. So again, if you can feel a lump, there are millions and sometimes billions of cells. It's been growing for quite a while. We were told by I can't even spit the name out, U.S. Preventive Services Task Force in 2009 that we no longer needed mammograms. How many of you caught up on that between the ages of 41 and 50? It was a really big thing on TV, and the whole task force was really slandered, I thought. I mean, they were raked over the coal on national TV. How could they do that? Who do these people think they are? Well, you look them up, there were 37 brilliant doctors that had credentials out the kazoo that had looked over all the medical information, advice, and statistics and said mammograms may be doing more harm than good. And they stepped forward and they were really crucified. So in the end, they kind of switched their wording and said a mammogram should be considered a very private decision between the patient and the doctor. But if you look,
the doctor tells you, here's the paper, go take your mammogram.
yes. And I had a 40-year-old come in one time for the biomeridian, and she said, oh, I'm so sore. I'm going, why? She goes, well, I just had my mammogram. And I'm looking at her going, why would you have a mammogram? Didn't you hear the latest news? You don't have to have one. She goes, oh, my doctor wrote me the nastiest letter and said I had better get in there.
Jeez.
So she did. And it has just a couple months after this came out. You know, so women still follow their doctors. very, very difficult.
And the doctors have to pay for that equipment, I feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does a
So it's all
mammogram
that.
cost?
Money.
I think it's in the range of $2 million, or maybe even more. That's what I heard sometimes. And those mobile vans with the mammograms in them have got to be way more expensive than that. So yes, there is some money. That's all connected. So there are safer ways, and this is the one that I like the most. In my research, I learned about thermography when I started a thermography service. And so this is a camera. Can you see the little camera there? It can fit in a suitcase that fits underneath the seat in an airplane. That's how small it is. And it doesn't cost $2 million. And basically, it uses thermal technology, which we've had from our armed services for years and years. And it was recently updated, so the heat-seeking thermal smart bombs and the thermal technology was released to the public, and that technology was integrated and really upped these, and there's a lot more information coming out about them now. This is not old technology, though. Even in Hippocrates' age, thousands of years ago, they would spread mud slurries on people, and watch where they would dry first, because that was an indication of an organ that was having trouble with the heat from internal heat. So that idea has been around for thousands of years, so that we can capture that. So these are some advantages, and I have a little pamphlet for you with all this information on it. And this is available right next door, so you can come and have no radiation, no compression. It'll detect all kinds of information, small tumors, give you information about inflammatory breast cancer, give you ideas about fibrocystic breast and tumors. Now, it cannot tell you if it is a cancerous tumor any more than a mammogram can. And do not let them ever tell you that, because I have talked to some women who were diagnosed from a mammogram, and they were told they had breast cancer, and that is not correct. You have to have a tissue biopsy for anything. But I know one woman that had a mastectomy because they told her from her mammogram. Then when they sent the tissue biopsy in, it was not cancerous.
Wow.
So that still happens. And she said somebody she knew did a little bit more research and did some snooping around, and that is not uncommon.
Now, are you the actual technician for you do the thermography?
I actually take the picture, so you said exactly correct, I'm the technician. I send them over the internet. It's like high-tech, technology.
And someone else
And
reads them,
medical
and then you get
doctors,
the
I have a
results.
staff
Okay.
there's 37 medical doctors that I send them to, and some of them can send them back. So it's really a turnkey system, basically. And it is, again, interpreted by MDs, but the thing I like about it the most is that it creates opportunities for early intervention. And that's what it's all about. The mammograms are not early detection, and they're obviously not intervention. So this is a system that can be if we use it correctly. But I did talk to one medical doctor, and he goes, oh, that could be some neat technology. He said, then if we saw a problem, I could give him tamoxifen earlier. And so it just kind of depends, on who's looking at the information, So we have to really work through that. These are some doctors in the news that love thermography. Anybody know Dr. Christiane Northrup? She loves it. In fact, she raised a little bit of maybe a problem out in the Detroit area. She said something really great about thermograms, and then, at some speech she was giving, and then the next day the newspapers were just covered with bad information about thermograms and good information about mammograms,
Wow.
So there's starting to be a little bit of stuff going on here. So really what I should say is that there's a place for everything, because the thermograms can't get everything, the mammograms can't get everything. But it would make a little bit more sense, and that's what a lot of these women doctors are saying, is to use the thermogram as long as it comes out okay, as long as the reading is correct. But if there's any questions, go get that mammogram, And some women are coming in and saying their doctors are now saying every 3 to 5 years for a mammogram. That works, but not every year for a mammogram. When my mother had her breast cancer, she had already had 35 mammograms.
Wow.
So I have women in their 70s, and the ones who have the highest breast cancer rates are the ones that mind their doctors and do what they've been told, and have been going every year for 30 years for their mammograms. Another example is a lady that was actually next door, and she was actually in her 50s, but she had been having 2 mammograms a year for years, and so she was only 50, but she'd already had, I think it was 25 mammograms. And between the 6-month checkups, she developed a goose egg-sized breast cancer.
Wow.
I wonder why.
2 a year.
And the radiation does accumulate, so that's how you do it. So anyway, Christiane Northrup loves breast, she calls it the best breast test. This lady, Dr. Fuchs, she has a women's health letter. If you can kind of read the last line there, she says she loves or likes thermograms, and she's going to write about them in her newsletters until they're centers throughout the country. So that's what bras is all about. We're hoping to have those centers throughout the country. And then Susan Lark has another newsletter, and she says that it may be the thermograms are the single most important indicator of high risk, tons more than a family connection. So they do have that. And then this one is probably way too small to read, but this comes from Dr. Rowan in his newsletter. And he's pretty cute the way he says that thermography is safer. How we love thermography. Let me count the ways. You know, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't spread cancer cells throughout your body by smash, you know. It can't ruin your figure. How many people have really nice firm, you know, and it breaks them down? It does break them down. It gives off zero radiation. It catches 90% of the cancers compared to 5 to 80 by mammograms. I'm not sure if I would say that myself. Everybody has some different statistics, but it is very good. It detects tumors smaller in size than a mammogram. It signals very few false positives, and that's really great. We've already mentioned $12,000 a piece for those. It has predictive value. The hotter the tumor, the faster it's growing. That's kind of informative. And because it predicts, you have warnings of possible trouble, and that's really important. Instead of just waiting, because that's what our mammograms are. We wait to see if we have something. So thermography can detect many years before a mammogram. So here's some pictures that I've taken. I guess not all of these, but these are what, on the left, it shows you what a normal thermogram would look like. It would be a little blue, or they like to give you information about patterns and